Good dawning. Wake up, everybody. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. We on our eighth segment, if I'm not mistaken. Give me a moment here. Yeah. Trust you all traveled well last night as you astral traveled and as you know, decided what you wanted to do with yourself through the night. If you wanted to just rest or if you wanted to go on some learning missions. Let me turn this down a little bit. Willfully, it's not too loud. So yeah, I think we're on our eighth segment now, for this journey. And as you all know, this whole experience is coming to you from the shrine. So just the thoughts and the ideas that come while I'm doing the work and fulfilling my obligation. My obligation to the community that I've built, with the assistance of many beautiful energies and many beautiful people. So let's get right into it, because I know you have to hurry off to your day, whatever that may consist of, and whether you're driving to work or getting ready to get on public transportation or calling your Uber or your Lyft or whatever. I've never taken either one of them, so I don't know all the different ones. But I know it's all the rage, all the rave right now, Uber and Lyft. But anyway, so I wanted to speak to you today about kind of like the order of operations, right? A lot of times, and you can see this in the video that I put up recently on the Chief Yuya channel, there was a question that was asked of me about the order that libations are done in. Should I go to my ancestors first? Should I go to the Orisha, Olodumare, my Ori, so forth and so on? And and I gave an answer. I'm not going to get into that, because if you want to, you can watch that video. It's the Everyone's Place video. All right, I think it's about 3 hours long. But if you want this information, all right. So in any event, I wanted to speak a little bit about to give you some guidance for the day and some things to ponder on that may willfully bring you closer to the tradition in a more intelligent way. Is why certain energies are present, why we work with certain things at a certain time. And I'm going to make it real simple. I'm going to go right into it, right? We tend to go to the hot before the cold, all right? And the reason why a lot of times when you're doing your invocations or you're trying to figure out how to do invocations, what you want to do is kind of always try to picture when you're working with your spiritual environment. You want to not necessarily anthropomorphize all of the entities that are in that environment, but understand that things that happen in the natural world, in the natural environment, are products of what's happening in the spiritual natural environment. Okay, so they're giving you clues as to how you can make things happen, or the order in the process of creation, if you will, right? So one of the things that you'll find, even if you look at the Yoruba creation story, two elements that were present from the very beginning were water and air, right? And if you look at a lot of different creation stories, you'll see the same thing. There's this space, there's this air, and then there's a big body of water, and then there's something that happens, and then there's a firmament or this earth that is created or placed into the water, or that rises out of the water, right? But you see that there's air and water that's present. And depending on if you're creating something, if you're trying to manifest something on the planet, or if you're trying to send something to the Akashic realm, that's going to determine the order of your own operations. And you can use that mentally when you're doing when you're doing your aduras, when you're even singing orikis, and you might even forget your place, or forget lyrics and things like that. You can kind of start to apply the sensibilities of creation to help you to understand how things would logically proceed. So for instance, we have like an Orisha Ogun, in relationship to an Orisha like Yemonja, right? Or an Orisha like Oya, in relationship to an energy like Oshun or Obatala, right? And depending on what you're doing, most of the time when you're trying to make something happen and you're going from one place to another, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll use fire or we'll use heat in order to break things down and to make way for the cooler energy. Usually we don't do it the other way around. Okay? Usually we don't do it the other way. So think about even when you want to eat something, or you're eating soup, you may heat the soup up and then let it cool so you can ingest it. You wouldn't typically cool the soup and then heat it up so that you can bring it in. You see? So a lot of times we'll use heat to break things down so that so then now the cooler can come through. We use heat almost like we would use a machete, or almost like we would use acid to break things down first to then allow the other things that are cooler behind it to come through. Well, the same thing with your Orisha. You would use an Ogun or you would use an Oya to break things down or to use that fire that they represent, that heat that they represent, in order to break things down to allow the Obatalas, the Oshuns, maybe even the Ochosis to a degree, the Yemojas to come in afterwards. Okay? So it's really important to understand again it's a very simple thing, but it trips a lot of people up. A lot of people, they end up, they may go out in the woods or they may be in an environment where they want to ritualize, but they're lost. They don't know where to begin. So most people will just go to their ancestors. Like, well, I can always do that. Just speak to my ancestors in a general sense, or they may speak about the ones that they actually knew. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's good too. You can do that too. But if you want to really kind of learn to start working with the effective families of the Orisha, because like I tell you, the names that you often are told to utilize are not those Orisha's names, but rather their titles. And they're like family titles, right? So it's just like if everyone in my family, if we represent a certain energy, let's say we're all very fiery, let's just say we'll keep it there, we're all very fiery, right? You may say, okay, I'm going to call upon Anu. But which one? Baby Anu, Papa Anu, Mama Anu, Sister Anu, because we all bring something different depending on what it is that you're trying to do. So to say Anu, it would be appropriate, but it wouldn't be completely accurate, because you're just talking about a title, you're talking about a family title before you start to get into the specifics of each individual, right? So your Orisha, no different, right? But like I said, a lot of times you'll use those hotter ones to make way for the cooler ones. Very, very, very similar to what you have in Voodoo or in Voodoo, where you have the nations, right? And you'll have like Petrol, you'll have Rada, you'll have Nago, you'll have Gede, right? And of course the Gede are a different kind of thing, and the Nago exists inside of the Petrol, But nonetheless, let's say if you take the two primary, the Petrol and the Rada. Petrol being those hotter energies that you typically work with, and the Rada being the cooler energies. And typically those Rada energies are usually considered maybe to be some of the older energies, or the energies that may have come from Benin or come from Yoruba land, but have come from the continent. And I'm speaking more in terms of Haitian Voodoo or Haitian Voodoo, right? So there's this idea that based on the rituals that I'm performing or the ceremonies that I'm performing, there's one that I'm going to invoke and invite before the other. And I'm going to give honor to each nation, or nation, but to each nation, they're going to get their honor, they're going to get addressed, but there's an order to do things, you see. And if you do things in the wrong order, you won't necessarily get the proper effect. No different than, again, if you're making a soup, and you put the soup in the freezer, and then put the fruit, I don't know, because that's maybe not the best example. Well, let's say if it's raw, it hasn't been made, you want to cook the soup, and you put it in the freezer first as a means to kind of cook it, if you will, and then you try to put some heat on it, and it may not be the same. The vegetables and things would be different because you froze them first, and you should not have done that, you see. So there's an order to actually do things to make them effective. And it's something I want you to think about, because I know the next questions that will come is, well, what's the order? We're supposed to do this, we're supposed to do that. Each house is different. Each tradition is different. If you're Anu, then, you've even probably been to retreats and you've seen me show you how to do this. And this is, we start with this one and we go here and we go there and we go there, we go there. So each environment is different depending on, and also ritualizing depending on what it is that you're trying to get done. Right? But the first thing is you want to be able to visualize, just from a good sense perspective, how would this normally work, even in the universe, or even in the tales of creation, right? Within the tales of creation, there's a certain movement towards this happens, then that happens, then that happens, right? Whether it's air is present, and then there's water, or there's water, and then, everything is water, and then out of the water rises an atmosphere, which gives us air, but typically air is first, right? And then maybe there may be some sort of light, or some sort of friction, or some sort of rubbing, right? All of that represents fire. And then from the rubbing and then the cooling, a lot of times solid particles are formed, or again, from the friction, or there might be, light first, and then there might be a dropping of sand, or a dropping of soil, or a dropping of earth, which now gives us that earth element, you see. But ultimately, there's an order. And remember that creation is not a static event, because when did it happen? If we say, okay, well, we have the Yoruba creation story, when exactly did this happen? You don't know. And if you understand that there's no concept of time in that realm, then that would essentially mean that it's still happening. This creation is an ongoing process, and we can always choose to create, or we can choose to destroy. And there's a process for creation, and there's a process for destruction. So it's an ongoing event, right? And you can choose where you want to create from. Do you want to create from the earth up, or do you want to create from the sky down, right? There's different ways and places to begin. And if you're the orchestrator of the entire experience through your Ori, you make sure, because maybe the Fire Nation, right, will say, well, creation starts with us. And the Water Nation will say, that's ridiculous. Creation starts with us. The Earth Nation will say, creation starts with me. And the air and so forth, and the ether will say, creation starts with me. And metal will say, creation starts with me. So you as a director and guide, with the Ori, with the breath of life, with the guiding and orchestrating head, you have to say, I want it to start here, then go there, and then go there, and then go there, and then go there. So there has to be a balanced order in terms of how things are done, no different than a conversation. Sometimes when you're conversing with someone, or you might just be having a meeting, there's an order to do things. There's an agenda, or an order of operations. And if that's respected, held, and maintained, then you can get effectual work done. But when it's ignored, you tend to not be able to produce the results that you would like to produce. All right. So I just wanted to share that with you, in terms of the order of doing things, and understand that a lot of times the heat is necessary. I've seen people who are more water energies, and they want to keep their entire world like that. And typically people like that want no truth anywhere around them. Truth is light. Light is fire, right? And I'll have more of that coming, because I have an Oshun book that's coming forth very soon. But and it gets into that a bit, right? But a lot of times those type of energies just want everything peaceful, what they consider to be peaceful, because peace has nothing to do with serenity, unless you just call your ability to kind of know identity in the face of confusion. That's peace. But there may be confusion and turmoil all around you, but it's okay because you're centered in the earth, in the conviction of what you are in the face of all that movement, right? And that's not the same thing as being stubborn. That's not the same thing as not listening. Whatever, I know me, but I know me. I hear that so often when I'm working with clients and I'm trying to tell them things. And of course, I just stop talking, but okay, you. This is really no reason for me to talk to you anymore then, because you know you. So if you know you, you could just go figure this out. No reason to call me for a reading, because you know you, you know. But when you start hearing that, that's a person who doesn't know themselves. That's a person who has no inner peace. They have no strength of conviction on what they actually are. They've established a historical perspective that they've decided to dissect and analyze by themselves. See, that's the Western mind. Everything happens, I sit back in a chair somewhere and I just reflect on everything and I figure it out. That's that Western sickness. Where the traditions that we're seeking to aspire and claim speak about us learning in groups, us learning as a collective, us learning as a community. There's not a whole lot of I going on, but there's a lot of we get together, we figure these things out. So when you say, I know me, if the community has determined your character, your character can only be identified, or even your existence as an individual is only determined within the presence of the community. So that I know me, I know who I am has zero value. The only value it really has is for us as a community to determine that you probably should not be a part of our community because you're bringing foreign sickness into it. Okay, so again, the value and the order of things and knowing even how things create inside of you, like the book that I have, Mind, Heart, Words. If you don't have it, get a copy of it. It's a little ebook. It's not even a book. I call it a mini guide. Just a little short mini guide. You can get it on Amazon. It's an ebook. But that gets into that, the order of creation, what comes before what. And like I say in the text, when you're dealing with a person who can't control their mouths, which a lot of times in today's society, we think is very cute. I just go off. I just say whatever. You know me, how I am, and I'll go off. If you can't control your words and your mouth, that means you can't control your mind, because that's where it travels from. So disordered thoughts, or even someone who has a trouble articulating something, is because it's not articulated and envisioning clear here. So that C is so very important, right? That letter C, to draw up a clear mental image. And you have some people who can't communicate anything clearly. You ask them a question, they can never give you a straight answer about the simplest of things. You could be driving in a car and you look over, you can't see the gauge. You say, "Hey, we got enough gas?" Well, I feel you hear a lot of ums. I filled it up, but I don't know. I mean, I put gas in it last week, but I don't, usually I don't know. I know I'll be driving it down to eat, just going and going. I'm just asking, is there enough gas? Yes or no? But they cannot draw up a clear mental image because there's a level of mental disordering that's going on. So then there's going to be verbal disordering. And if there's verbal disordering, there's reality disordering. Their reality is disordered, their words are disordered, their thoughts are disordered, and their feelings are the same. So when you can determine the divine order of creation, it helps you to also determine the divine order of you. How you came into being and how you continue to come in and unfurl into a state or through a state of being. All right. So that has been your Orisha motivation for the day. Again, as always, travel safe, look about you, pay attention to those who you speak to today, and try to pay attention to how ordered their thoughts are, how ordered their words are, how precise their movements are. And look at the things around you and look at the level of deliberation that has probably gone into even your own lifestyle. Those who have thought about what time they wanted you to wake up, what time they wanted you to be at work, what time they wanted you to take lunch, what time they wanted you to go home, and how sometimes we just find ourselves shuffled from place to place, and this thing begins to atrophy. So then when we try to draw up a focus on something, we have so much difficulty, right? So today is the day to turn that around. This has been Chief Yuya with your Orisha broadcast slash podcast slash from the Orisha Shrine, thoughts to grow on for the day. All right? Until such time. Odabo.